Hi, I'm Gretchen with USA Loves Manufacturing. Thanks so much for joining us today for the USA Manufacturing and Technology Moment. Today's guest is Larissa Miller. She's the CEO of Phoenix Global, and today we're going to be talking about sustainability, smart cities, and the technology for moving forward. Thanks so much for joining us, Larissa. I look forward to talking to you. Larissa is CEO of Phoenix Global, and she can just let you know a little bit more about what they do.
Thank you so much for having me today, Gretchen. It's truly an honor to be here. At Phoenix Global, we are a global consultancy firm, and we facilitate investment in sectors such as renewable energy, affordable housing, transportation, technology, and agri-tech, agricultural technology.
Yeah, I really appreciate our conversations that we've had so far. They're very enlightening, and it's so important right now with technology to think about what we're doing in the world tomorrow and to create that now. So I think you guys are doing such an amazing job. I know you're a thought leader in the industry. It's really important for women to be able to have their voice in manufacturing and technology. So I really appreciate everything you add to it. Give us an idea of, some of the projects that Phoenix is working on right now. I know we've talked about the smart cities a good bit at length lately, but you guys are doing a lot more than just that.
Oh, absolutely. I've spent most of my career years working outside of the United States and have a fairly decent global perspective on the needs and the challenges that we're facing in our global marketplace, for sure, not just here in the United States, but around the world. And as I look at the way forward for business and industry, technology will be the nucleus of every industry and sector moving forward, from agriculture to government to energy, transportation. And, it's really wonderful to be a woman that is so rooted in technology, and to see so many bright women around the world who are prioritizing careers in STEM. Governments who are recognizing that the value and contribution of a woman to technology is very valuable, as we have a decidedly different perspective than men do. And I really think that this is a phenomenal opportunity for women to explore careers in technology in various industries and sectors, and for sure for all of us to embrace investment in innovative and cutting edge technology.
I agree completely. It's one of those pieces that has really kind of made itself known throughout the last couple of decades that, women do have certain traits that tend to, bloom in this environment. I mean, one of them is empathy. And when you look at certain aspects like sustainability and, even diversity with technology, that is a big piece of it. It kind of is one of those characteristics for CEOs that really can determine company culture and, of course, the success of the company overall.
Oh, absolutely. And they always say that, men have a very linear way of thinking and women are this giant ball of electric wire in our minds. But it's that perspective that we have, that ability to see issues and challenges and opportunities from multiple angles that really give us, I want to say a bit of an edge. And it's the empathy and the emotion that we have also that can contribute great validity and perspective on the growth and way forward for any project or investment.
Yeah, and also, even though a lot of people see this as more esoteric, I think a lot of it is intuition. And I've seen, various men, even in the last year, that I know had that intuition. I know of one executive that mentioned, the success of being an executive is that he can read people. And, I can see that in him. So there are, of course, men that are able to do that, but women, it very much is that intuition. And, there's a lot of factors to that. Men have so many strong characteristics, women do, and we can all work together. So that's why I think it's important it's kind of like that right and left brain thing. And it's important that we bring more women into the mix so we can have that full picture versus just, one piece of it.
Absolutely. No, gender diversity is so critical to any business in their mandate to become a vanguard of the future. And it's almost that we need to stop seeing it as men and women and just start recognizing
Right.
that we have a value to one another as a team. And while we are thinking, our critical thinking, our emotional thinking may differ from one another, it all contributes to a much more well-rounded solution to any problem, challenge, or new strategy.
Right. It's not a us versus them, it's we. And that's the way we really want to think moving forward so we can build that new world tomorrow. So I guess, let's talk a little bit more about the smart cities because it's something people hear a good bit lately, and especially even more since COVID. AI, robotics, automation, it's all becoming more and more at the forefront, and it's growing exponentially because of COVID. But I hear a lot the question, what is a smart city? Because most people think of it as, that connected, the IoT, but there's so much more to it. And you've been a big piece of me even understanding that. So the article that I just wrote for Innovation in Tech today, I appreciate all of the input that you gave me on that. So would you kind of explain to us what exactly a smart city is?
Sure, absolutely. And this is really subjective based on the region where the city is and what the needs of that particular area are. But smart city is one of those overused and misunderstood buzzword, more kind of like sustainability. If you ask, 6 people on the street what sustainability is, most of them will say it's, hugging the bears, the bunnies, and the trees. And a smart city, they'll say, oh, it means that we all have connectivity. And that is fundamentally a huge misgiving, and one that we really have to correct so that we can understand the way forward. Is every city moving into the future is going to have a mandate to become a smart city. And a smart city encompasses things like building efficiency, how efficient the energy, the water consumption, how the operation of your building functions. It is connectivity for sure, because we do live in a hyper-connected society, and everything we do moving forward will stem around connectivity. But it's e-government, it's making sure that we have an efficient waste management system, it's our public services and our public transportation. And as we see that many cities in the United States have a mandate to move to EV electric buses within the next 15 years, that's a big contributor to a smart city mandate. And of course, affordable housing has to be an important part of achieving a smart city, affordable and sustainable housing. And this will go a long way towards keeping the workforce central in the city in a live, work, play environment. And again, that's reciprocal because it demands then that we have more smart city efficiencies for which to provide them value.
Sure. And the social cohesiveness, which is, I know, such a big piece of it. It's not the cities and the inner cities of, the past. It's a completely different concept. And, I know gentrification has a little bit of a, the yin yang, and people, some people believe in it, some people are a little bit against it. But from everything that I'm seeing, for instance, downtown Birmingham recently, they have really, put a lot into revitalizing certain areas, but it still has the same flavor, and it's keeping that true to, to where it should be. So I think that's a good way to do it, but it's a fantastic area. So I think there's ways to do it right.
It's proven that cities that promote gentrification are the ones that will lead the way into the future, because, less and less will we start to see the great divide between us.
Mm-hmm.
That great divide is placed at much higher levels than all of us will ever achieve. It is spurred by the media, and I'm not one of those that will get on any sort of a media bandwagon here. But when you actually come down to the grassroots of society, at the end of the day, we all want to have a peaceful cohesiveness and to be able to see our own personal economics grow, to be able to have a little bit more fiscal responsibility in our lives as we look at the United States and what we're dealing with right now in a very cash poor society, where we don't teach fiscal responsibility in schools, and our younger generations are emerging from university with, the student loan debt in the United States is $1.4 trillion right now. Yeah. That's shocking. So we have a mandate to the future to be creating communities which are viable, economical, and achievable to the younger generations so that we can have a stable and very cohesive society moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. I actually saw an article yesterday, and unfortunately I can't remember exactly where, but it was saying, all of the studies and all of the metrics are showing all of the ideas of dangerous neighborhoods. There aren't as many dangerous neighborhoods. I think it was something that was out, most people probably saw the article, but it's not the hype that it's made out to be. There are people in every neighborhood. All they want is they have children and they have relatives and friends that they want to have a quality of life. So it is a lot of times a media thing.
As someone who spent so many years working in the Middle East and having been in and out of challenged regions such as Iraq and Yemen and Jordan, and doing extensive work across the continent of Africa, I can tell you that we now have to be at a place in this UN declared decade of action in 2020 where the differences between us are as invisible as our eye colors. It can't be men versus women and black versus white and one religion against another religion, or our political parties against one another. We've lost that sense of bipartisanship where we can come together in the middle. And that is the only recipe that we need to be able to be a viable national and global economy and a sustainable planet. It's really as simple as just, learning how to cooperate and support one another so that we can accelerate all of our missions and mandates and, that of society and humankind overall.
I agree completely. And the funny thing is, I think we've been being led to that and we just didn't realize it. And, we were all sort of fighting back because if you look at America, how it was built, what it was built on, we've really been working toward that goal. And we have so many different people in this nation that, expanding it out to the world, that is important. But, we have to think about it almost like humans, instead of, Africa or the US, et cetera, because what are the key pieces to the world that are important? It is sustainability. It is diversity. It is about, just creating that environment for everyone. And that's where we're going to see that positivity that's going to work for the whole world. But we have to take care of, it's like, I say this all the time, I'm on a plane, it's going down. I have to put on that oxygen mask first so I can help everyone else or help myself. And that's why it's so important for the US to get it right, bring back manufacturing. Yes, that's important. We don't want our manufacturing in countries that don't have the same goals and looking toward the future that are all about themselves and mistreat people. So we have to look at it that way.
Change cannot be politically driven. It falls on each and every one of us.
Right.
And as I look at the future of business in America, I don't see it being driven by the large multinationals. I see it being driven by the entrepreneur and the micro enterprise and the SMEs. And that means that we now have to place a mandate on building our entrepreneurial mindset, encouraging the startup economy that we need to be looking at as the bridge to the future. And that has no gender and that has no race, and that really has very little to do with socioeconomics. And it's probably the single biggest driver that will be able to accelerate our economy as we move forward.
Yeah, I can really see that being the case, which, of course, brings in, the piece of STEM, which, I say STEM, but I really think it's the STEAM where you bring in the arts. I think that's as important
100%.
or even more important.
Yep. No, I agree. It's about building the complete individual. And a complete individual is healthy physically, mentally, emotionally, and financially. But part of having the perspective to be able to envision the way that the world needs to be in order to move forward in a viable way is to have an understanding of not only sciences, engineering, technology, math, but it's understanding our connectivity to the arts and our physical movement. And it's about being less connected through technology and more connected as individuals. I tell my children all the time, put your cell phones down and look up and see the world, because destiny will walk right by those who are too busy taking selfies. I mean, how often do we go to a famous landmark and people are standing there with their back to the landmark, their hand in the air, and they're taking a selfie with themselves in the picture, and they never actually stop and look at it. And this is how we actually have to look at business moving forward. We have to stop and take the blinders off and look very clearly at the way forward. And we will see that it's going to be the startup mindset that will be really the drivers of the future. And that means, efficiency in operations, that means manufacturing, and that means really looking for innovative strategies that will allow us to solve problems that are emerging every single day, because problems that we have today, we couldn't have even imagined 9 months ago. And yet it's those businesses who are looking at it in a very out-of-the-box fashion and trying to solve these problems that are going to lead the way into the future, not those who are sitting back licking their wounds waiting for this nightmare to be over.
Right.
So it's all about reframing our mindset, and that we have to do together.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that comes to a good point of, we've been talking throughout the conversation about one of the most important aspects of smart cities and pretty much everything in general is sustainability. It really is one of the most important pieces of moving forward for the nation, for the world. And, we're a little bit behind, or a good bit behind in the US. So we were talking about really the importance of creating those mandates, not only for, sectors or, business, manufacturing, everything. What are your thoughts on how we, go forward and create that for the United States?
Well, like I said, sustainability is one of the most overused and misunderstood buzzwords in the English language. And it isn't just about, climate change, although that's a very significant and important part of it. But sustainability is the economic viability of our society, of our economy, and of our planet. And the United Nations really gave us a brilliant gift when they put together the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which are 17 goals and 169 targets within those goals that really set out the framework for us to be a long-lasting and economically viable global society. And I always tell entrepreneurs or small businesses, you can't make an impact to all 17 goals or your impact will be very, negligible. But pick one goal out of the 17 that you can really throw your weight at and make a really measurable impact, and you will have done something phenomenal for the sustainability and viability of our planet. And, the Sustainable Development Goals really take a lot of the work out of it for us because the work has been done. So I always urge every young business, every business to adopt either one or two of the Sustainable Development Goals and really set forth to make a quantifiable impact.
Yeah, and I'm going to put that list of goals in the comments when I put this out there, because I think that's very important as well. It's kind of like if you can just start somewhere. And sometimes when you're trying to just go down a checklist, kind of like LEED certification or anything of that nature, when you're having to go through an extensive checklist, it becomes almost, too much. But if you pick one and you make that small change, but it's everyone making the small change, then it really can start to make a difference. And I think that's it. People are like, how do we change the culture of the nation or of the world? It's impossible. No, it's not.
Right.
It really is about all of us really try, or a large percentage of us making those small changes.
Absolutely.
And I think
The UN declared this the decade of action, and we have basically 10 years to be able to turn the planet around socially, economically, and environmentally. And if we don't by 2030, and even sooner, as the studies are showing, the planet will essentially go into a mode of hospice where there is no being able to save it. We're just going to be limping it along as long as we can. And, we've done a horrible job at preparing the future for our youth. So we have to prepare the youth for our future, and introducing the Sustainable Development Goals into curriculums and making it a part of every business model as we move forward will be essential. One person really can make a difference, because if we all come together and make small differences and small impacts, that measures up to be something that is, has an astoundingly positive impact on our future.
I completely agree. It reminds me very much so of peak oil. Everyone occasionally, it's such a big thing. They always talk about peak oil and then what happens. And I see it almost like this peak earth. If we don't make that change way before, then we won't be able to make the change. And we have to do it now. So it's a very exciting time. I think we're just seeing, I always say, exponentially the growth of robotics, automation, AI, and people adopting, these sustainable goals. And people like yourself, you are helping drive that. So thank you so much for, just even enlightening us to it. And, the article is out. So I think we're really going to try and do more on that especially like with innovation and technology today and things that I'm doing on social media. So I'm really looking forward to continuing the conversation with you.
I look forward to it as well. And I really salute you for being a woman in manufacturing, because, you're sort of a lone fish at times in an industry that typically doesn't have a great female presence, but it really needs to, because as we look to innovating and re-strategizing the future, it's going to be some of these out-of-the-box solutions that women offer that will potentially be the ones that can really reshape the way we move forward.